ICICIdirect. Sandeep Daga-Base metal expert joins us to talk about the key expectations from the base metal space from Budget 2022. The countdown to the budget has begun. The Finance Minister and the Prime Minister have been meeting industry leaders and business heads and gathering their feedback and wish list from the much anticipated budget next week. Sandeep, thank you very much for joining us today on the show. Sandeep, I believe a broad understanding has been reached between the steel and finance ministries to review import duties on major metals and bring them down, and in some cases withdraw them completely to help user industries. Industry, I believe, is also urging the government to reduce custom duty on basic metals such as steel, copper, aluminium to 0% and allow a reduction in basic custom duty in the ferrous industry. In your opinion, this is a top ask?
Thank you, first of all, Samina, for having me on the show. This is absolutely the top list. We need to appreciate the fact that over the last 22 months or so, and more particularly in the last 2 quarters, the base metal price and the steel price have gone up dramatically, and it has brought complications across the industry chain. The consumers are worried because they cannot absorb the price hike, and they're keeping the inventory very low. The traders are worried because the working capital needs have gone up dramatically, and there's liquidity, kind of mini liquidity crunch that we can see in the industry. The importers are worried because the domestic prices are low. If they import, it will be unprofitable for them. Execution of firm price government projects is also slowed down because for the contractor, this will be loss-making propositions. So if you look at it, the governments all over the world have been working very hard to contain inflation, to help the consumers in the same way that they help the producers when the prices go very low. So I think, obviously, as you rightly said, the first wish list is that they should cut duties. We should remember the fact that China has released metal from the strategic stockpile last year. The government of US has been releasing oil from the strategic reserve pile from their strategic reserve pile. India does not have a reserve pile as such, but yet the commodity inflation affects more than many. So cutting duty would be the first step that the government can do. One should also note the fact that, in last 6 months or so in particularly, the industry has developed, industry has grown, the IP has gone up, industrial production has gone up. But if you really look into the details, it's the producers who have made more money, or they have gone above the pre-pandemic levels, while the consumers are still struggling at 70% or 60% of their previous peak. So the consumers need a helping hand, and government should take a step forward in cutting duty. Entirely agree with you.
Thanks. Sandeep, I want to just specifically touch upon the steel industry for a minute. There is talk that it's imperative to revert to pre-budget 2021-22 on basic custom duty rates for steel and continuation of the existing anti-dumping duties on countries exporting to India for 5 years for hot rolled and cold rolled flat steel products. How likely is this expectation? Anti-dumping is another big area of contention right now.
I think the government has to find the right balance between the producers' demand and the consumers' demand. I am not sure what government is going to do, because they may have also constrained on their own balance sheet, which is affected by the COVID-related expenditures. So steel is a big area in terms of whatever government does will have a big implications on their revenues as well. So I'm not sure what comes up, but I know that there is a soft touch required for the consumer industry for sure.
Sandeep, the government had recently announced the extension of the reduced rate of performance security and the PLI scheme, which has helped the industry. Any other reforms you're expecting from the budget this year to give an impetus to make India more competitive in the global marketplace and make India really a global manufacturing hub?
Absolutely, Samina. I take your point completely. As China starts to slow down and it becomes more an internally focused economy, everybody is looking at India to become the next manufacturing hub. We have the potential, the timing is right for us, for the manufacturing sector to push up. This is in the interest of the Indian economy, this is in the interest of the global economy. So I think the focus is on identifying those sectors, those manufacturing areas where we need to replace, let's say, imports. The government has introduced PLI scheme for different sectors, and these are working very, very beautifully. That's being implemented and taken up by the industry with a lot of enthusiasm. I think in the manufacturing sector as well, there are several products which are net imported into the country. If you look at the custom list, there are many value-added products which are not made in India. Uh, does the Indian manufacturing industry have the technology, the spirit to set up those industries? Yes, they have, but they need helping hand. So if government announces PLI scheme in those products, that'll be amazing for the manufacturing setup in India.
Right. Sandeep, it's all about, rather, the future is all about green initiatives, reduction of CO2 emission, really about responsible recycling, right? We need to play catch up. I know countries like China and Malaysia are already at it. What do you think India can do potentially at this budget, even outside this budget, to gear up for this big, big theme that's going to play itself out over the next decade at least?
I think a sustainable environment is what we all of us need. The community, the government, the businesses, everybody are committed towards it. Um, if you look at what has happened in the last 2-3 years in the Western world, US and Europe, who have been a net exporter of scrap, the Eastern world who have been recycling, converting this into metal and sending it back to the Western world. The Western world have formed new policies, and they have asked their own industry to set up recycling in their own economy rather than sending the scrap to the Eastern world. So that's a big change that has happened. So everybody's embracing the recycling industry, but in a responsible way. India should also take it up. We have a thriving recycling industry, but a large part of it is very unorganized. I think there is needs to attract large capital, large businesses into it, and government needs to form strong policies which ensures that India does not become a dumping ground for recycling, but at the same time, a responsible green recycling takes place. Metal industry has a lot of potential for that. Lead, India is one of the largest lead recyclers of the country. Similarly for aluminum and similarly for copper, a lot can be done by government of India to really support this industry. I think there is a need for an institutional and a systematic framework for this recycling industry to thrive. There are different sectors of it, different segments of this value chain, and all of that can be addressed. We can take a leap from the Western world in how they are doing it, and we can replicate, Indianize those rules, and we can frame those up.
We've touched upon the top ask, if I may say, for the base metal sector from budget 2022. Anything else on top of your mind that you'd like to see getting done at this budget for the sector?
I think if you look at it, the metal prices have gone through the roof. The prices have gone up 2 times, 3 times. Some of the metal prices are at record high. The working of, let's say, the mid-scale or the smaller scale industry has gone up dramatically. Their margins have come down, and they cannot bear any small hiccup that happens in the liquidity of their own industry. So this is a big ask, I would say, from the industry, that they need continuous government support in order to keep the interest rate low, or some kind of government-backed guarantee schemes which ensures that the liquidity in the system remains enough. Government has the guarantee scheme which has been doing good. I think there is needs to give a little more touch, little more push to this so that the industry does not suffer. As I mentioned previously, the industry is facing some sort of liquidity problems. And this started after Diwali, and this has been gradually getting a little more accentuated. So I think some hand from the government would really help the industrial growth to push up further.
And Sandeep, that would largely be on the liquidity front, right?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I think liquidity is a big area. I think the Indian manufacturing setup has the capacity, they have the potential to grow further. Many people have been setting up their plants or they're expanding the capacity to export. That is a wonderful space, but it's just that they need the right government support. And the Indian cost of capital is higher as compared to the Western world. This is where the competitiveness goes away. So there's need to be continuous support. Now, let me also focus on this part that the funding of working capital of the many of these manufacturers actually comes from dollar, and dollar is strengthening. The interest rate of dollar is going to go up, as we heard from the US Fed. So in that case, a lot of funding will move back to rupee because the dollar funding will become costly, especially for those people who are not exporters. So from that point of view, I think there is need to be a lot of government schemes. There can be many government schemes. I don't want to point them out, but there's a lot of innovation that can be done in terms of supporting these internationally, or these manufacturing plants to remain internationally competitive.
Indeed. In fact, that's the only way India can even rightfully compete in the global marketplace. Great talking to you, Sandeep. Lots riding on the budget, especially at a time when the FOMC is tightening rates. Similar expectations back in India as well. We will be going to real interest rates going higher, which means liquidity potentially could get tighter for the sector, and some relief on that front would be welcomed, I believe, for the base metal industry. Thank you, Sandeep. Great talking to you today on the show.
Thank you very much.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all related documents carefully before investing.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to never miss an update from ICICI Direct.